The council chamber reeked of incense and false promises as Queen Eleanor entered, her emerald cloak dragging like a burden of thorns. Her voice trembled, but carried steel when she asked, "Do you dare strip me of my crown?" Lord Richard, a seasoned schemer with eyes sharp as blades, replied, "Your reign bleeds the treasury dry, and the kingdom suffers." The reluctant hero, Sir Thomas, clenched his fists at the edges of the hall, whispering under his breath, "This cannot be justice." The betrayer within, Lady Margaret, poised like a serpent, feigned sorrow, murmuring, "We serve the realm, not vanity." The queen's heart pounded, her breath uneven, as the flames of torches flickered shadows across her pale, resolute face. She realized in that instant that loyalty had died, and betrayal had been crowned. The queen walked into the night, the chill wind tearing at her cloak. The courtyard torches sputtered as she whispered, "They would rather see me broken than see the truth." Sir Thomas followed at a distance, torn between loyalty and fear. He thought, "Her pain burns hotter than any forge." The betrayer within remained inside, her false kindness veiling treachery, while the power-hungry opportunist plotted new moves. The queen's hands shook as she brushed the stone walls, each step echoing like the toll of betrayal. The moonlight glared down on her pale face, and though her crown weighed heavy, vengeance whispered in her ear like a lover's promise. In the great hall, Lord Richard gathered his allies, spreading maps across a candlelit table. His voice rasped, "The queen is no longer fit to rule." Lady Margaret leaned forward, her tone silken. "She will not survive without allies, and ours are plenty." A scribe scratched hurried notes, the quill trembling in ink. The council chamber's walls dripped with shadows that seemed to listen. Sir Thomas stood outside, hearing whispers of betrayal, his stomach knotted. The queen's crown, resting alone on her dresser, gleamed under the torchlight, abandoned yet waiting. Queen Eleanor returned to her chamber, her body trembling with rage. She threw her emerald cloak across the floor, her breath sharp and uneven. She whispered to herself, "If loyalty is ash, then vengeance shall be flame." A storm gathered beyond the window, lightning cracking across the sky, as if the heavens mirrored her wrath. She approached the mirror, her reflection fractured by candlelight, and for the first time, she did not see a monarch but a prisoner of betrayal. Her voice trembled, "They will regret this treachery." That night, thunder rolled as the queen stood at her balcony. The rain hissed against stone, cloaking her tears. Sir Thomas appeared quietly behind, his voice low. "My queen, I fear for you." She answered coldly, "Fear is for the weak, Sir Thomas. I will teach them dread." The betrayer within watched from the shadows, her face hidden beneath her hood, lips curling in satisfaction. In that moment, the queen swore silently that her revenge would not merely punish, it would become legend. The dawn broke over the castle, but no warmth reached Queen Eleanor's chamber. She sat in silence, her fingers tracing the edge of a dagger, her thoughts as sharp as the blade. Sir Thomas entered quietly, his voice low. "My queen, the people grow restless. Whispers travel faster than the wind." She replied, her eyes fixed on the dagger. "Let them whisper, for soon they will cry out." The council's betrayal had cut deeper than any wound, and her trust, once unshakable, lay shattered. Beyond the walls, the bells tolled, marking the hour of prayer, yet no prayer could soothe her vengeance. She clenched her jaw and whispered to herself, "They will learn what it means to wound a queen." In the marketplace below, townsfolk gathered, their voices buzzing with rumors of the queen's weakness. Merchants closed their stalls early, fearing unrest, while children clung to their mothers' skirts. The power-hungry opportunist, Lord Richard, rode through on horseback, his crimson cloak billowing as he declared, "The realm deserves strength, not hesitation." Citizens bowed, some in fear, others in reluctant agreement. The innocent witness, a young messenger, froze at his words, feeling the air thicken with unease. Somewhere in the crowd, the betrayer within listened, lips curving in secret satisfaction. The queen's name, once spoken with reverence, now drifted through the market as a curse. Queen Eleanor stood before the chapel altar, the flickering candles casting trembling halos on her face. She whispered, If God has abandoned me, then I shall carve my justice with mortal hands." Her voice cracked, yet her eyes glowed with resolve. Sir Thomas knelt behind her, whispering, "You still have allies, my queen, though they are few." She turned toward him, a bitter smile on her lips. "Few are enough when fire burns within." Outside, thunderclouds gathered, cloaking the morning in shadows. The betrayal of her counsel had become more than treachery. It had become her holy wound, and she vowed never to let it heal. In the council chamber, Lord Richard tightened his grip on power. He stood tall before his allies, voice booming. "The queen falters, and with her fall comes opportunity." Lady Margaret leaned close to him, her words silken. "Her crown is already yours, if you dare to take it." Murmurs filled the air, quills scratching notes, the scribe trembling at each word. Richard's gaze hardened, his ambition laid bare like sharpened steel. Outside the chamber doors, the innocent witness lingered, his heart pounding as he realized he had stumbled upon secrets too dangerous to keep. The storm outside roared in answer to treachery within. That night, rain lashed the castle walls as Queen Eleanor stood once more on her balcony. Her hair clung to her face, her eyes fierce in the storm's fury. She raised her hand to the heavens, whispering, "If mercy has no place here, then let vengeance be my crown." Sir Thomas stood near, silent, his heart torn between duty and pity. In the shadows, unseen, the shadow figure watched from the rooftops, cloaked and unmoving, as though the storm itself had given it form. Thunder crashed, echoing her vow across the valley. The queen was no longer a monarch of peace, but a weapon forged in betrayal. Night cloaked the castle in silence, but inside its corridors, whispers slithered like snakes. Queen Eleanor moved cautiously, her footsteps muffled by the heavy rugs, her eyes sharp for spies. She murmured, "Every shadow may hide a traitor." In the courtyard below, the innocent witness delivered messages, unaware of the dangers weaving around him. The betrayer within, Lady Margaret, followed quietly, her gaze cold as she watched the boy's trembling hands. Sir Thomas patrolled nearby, his armor muted in torchlight, sensing unrest but unable to name it. From the rooftops, the shadow figure lingered unseen, observing them all, a phantom in the storm's breath. The innocent witness hurried through the marketplace, clutching the queen's sealed words. His breath caught as villagers whispered of rebellion, their eyes darting towards soldiers stationed nearby. He thought, "If I falter, her fate dies with me." Lord Richard, towering on his horse, intercepted the crowd with a booming voice. Loyalty must be tested, and traitors exposed. Fear rippled among the townsfolk as guards pushed through the throng. From an alley, Lady Margaret observed, her lips curving into a predatory smile. The boy tightened his grip on the parchment, unaware the shadow figure's eyes were on him from the rooftops above. Queen Eleanor sat by the chapel window, candlelight trembling against her pale face. She whispered, "I must know who among them will stand with me, and who seeks my ruin." Sir Thomas entered, his voice heavy. "The soldier's loyalty bends with hunger and fear, my queen." She clenched her fists, muttering, "Then let fear serve me better than mercy." Outside, thunder rolled as the heavens darkened, as though sealing her vow. Yet unseen in the rafters above, the shadow figure listened silently, calculating. Even in her sanctum, no word was safe, for betrayal crept where faith once dwelled. Lady Margaret moved silently through the queen's private chamber, her eyes searching the shelves for secrets. She whispered to herself, "Power rests not only in crowns, but in knowledge." Her hand brushed across parchments and letters, her expression sharpened with discovery. Behind her, the innocent witness crept closer, wide-eyed as he realized he had seen too much. Margaret spun, her voice like venom. "Curiosity will cost you dearly, boy." The chamber fell into tense silence, broken only by the storm's howl through the cracked window. Somewhere in the shadows, the shadow figure watched with unnerving stillness. The storm raged across the valley as Queen Eleanor gathered Sir Thomas in the war room. She pointed to maps sprawled across the oak table, her voice cold. "If the council prepares my downfall, then I must prepare their graves." Thomas whispered, Your vengeance may burn all, including you. She replied, her tone cutting like steel. Better ashes than chains. From the high beams, unseen, the shadow figure studied them, his motives cloaked in silence. Lightning cracked, and for an instant his silhouette flickered above, a dark omen neither of them noticed. The castle gates groaned as Queen Eleanor stood upon the battlements, her cloak snapping in the wind. She declared, "If they seek to strip me of power, then I will wield fire against them." Sir Thomas stood at her side, his voice cautious. Rebellion grows in the villages, and soldiers waver. She turned sharply, her gaze fierce. "Then I shall remind them who wears the crown." Below, peasants murmured, their torches flickering like restless stars. From the shadows, Lady Margaret watched with veiled contempt, whispering, "The higher she climbs, the deeper her fall shall be." The night brimmed with sparks of war. In the council chamber, Lord Richard slammed his fist upon the oak table, his voice echoing, "The Queen defies reason, and she must be crushed before her vengeance consumes us all." His allies nodded grimly, but their eyes betrayed unease. Lady Margaret leaned forward, her tone silken. "Fear drives people to follow strength, not mercy." The betrayer within's words seeped into the cracks of loyalty like poison. Outside, thunder rolled as if the heavens mocked their schemes. The scribe trembled as he recorded their plots, knowing each word etched the kingdom closer to blood. Queen Eleanor gathered her loyal guards in the war room, maps spread across the table, candles dripping wax like time running out. She said coldly, "Strike before they bind us in chains." Sir Thomas shook his head, warning, "A war within these walls will leave the kingdom bleeding." She met his eyes with burning resolve. "Better their blood than mine." The gods exchanged uneasy glances, torn between duty and survival. Beyond the chamber doors, the innocent witness lingered, clutching the parchment he dared not deliver, knowing truth and death weighed the same. The villagers marched with torches through the muddy streets, their chants echoing like war drums. Lord Richard addressed them from horseback. "Follow me, and we shall end tyranny." His crimson cloak flared as firelight danced across his stern face. Among the crowd, Lady Margaret whispered encouragements, her words dripping with venomous persuasion. The innocent witness hid among the masses, his heart pounding as he realized rebellion's fire had been stoked. Above, the shadow figure moved silently across the rooftops, watching with calculating stillness as history shifted beneath the roar of flames. Storm winds battered the Queen's balcony as she raised her arms against the thunder. She shouted, "If they brand me a tyrant, then I shall give them tyranny to fear." Lightning lit her face, twisted with rage and glory. Sir Thomas stood silently behind, whispering, "This path may claim your soul." She turned, her eyes aflame, and hissed, "My soul is already theirs to haunt." The storm howled like the voice of war, and in its roar she felt the fire of vengeance take form. The Queen had chosen her path, and no power on earth could turn her back. The Queen paced the war room, her cloak brushing maps stained with ink and candle wax. She muttered, "Every ally is a mask, and one among them wears betrayal." Sir Thomas, his voice heavy, said, "My Queen, suspicion devours trust." She turned sharply, eyes glinting. "Trust is the weapon they used to bind me. I shall not be bound again." The chamber air thickened with her rage, the storm outside beating against the windows. In the shadows, the innocent witness trembled, holding secrets too great for his fragile heart. The Queen's words hung like a blade, ready to strike. In the great hall, Lord Richard rallied his followers with thunder in his voice. "The Queen gathers blades, not prayers. She seeks vengeance, not justice." Lady Margaret stepped forward, eyes cold. "Then we must unmask her before she unmasks us." The councillors exchanged wary glances, knowing treachery dripped from every corner. The scribe scribbled furiously, ink spattering as his hand shook. Outside, the innocent witness pressed his ear to the door, his breath uneven as he realized the Queen's enemies now plotted not just her throne, but her life. His courage faltered, yet his heart urged him to act. Queen Eleanor cornered Lady Margaret in the chapel, her voice like iron. You smile sweetly, yet venom drips from your lips. Speak truth before I carve it from you. Margaret smirked, her voice smooth. Truth is the cloak of fools, and power rewards the bold. Sir Thomas entered, his sword drawn halfway, his gaze torn between duty and doubt. The innocent witness burst in, gasping, "She betrays you, my queen." The air crackled with revelation, the storm outside pounding like a drum of fate. Masks had fallen, and treachery lay bare, sharp as steel in torchlight. The council erupted in chaos as news of Lady Margaret's treachery spread. Lord Richard's roar silenced the hall. "This is the Queen's poison, turning us against each other." Margaret, dragged forward by guards, hissed, "You may bind me, but her crown will drown in blood." The Queen entered, her cloak drenched, lightning illuminating her face. She declared, "Lies crumble when truth walks in." The chamber froze, every eye caught between fear and awe. Sir Thomas stood beside her, silent but steady, while the innocent witness trembled, realizing history was being forged before his very eyes. That night, the Queen stood over Lady Margaret in the dungeons, chains clattering as the betrayer spat curses. Eleanor whispered, "You thought betrayal a weapon, but you forgot vengeance is sharper." Margaret sneered, "Strike me down, and you become the tyrant they claim." Sir Thomas, watching silently, whispered, "The choice defines you, my queen." Her hand hovered over the dagger, trembling between wrath and restraint. The innocent witness wept softly nearby, praying the Queen would spare mercy. The chamber echoed with the storm's fury, the world holding its breath for the fate of both women. The war drums thundered beyond the castle walls as Queen Eleanor gathered her loyalists in the courtyard. Rain slicked her cloak as she raised her dagger high, shouting, "Swear now to shed blood for the crown, or depart forever." Sir Thomas stepped forward, his voice steady, "I stand with you, though the road leads to ruin." The guards knelt, pressing blades to their chests, chanting their oath into the storm. The innocent witness clutched his parchment, his lips trembling as he whispered, "This oath will carve history in red." The Queen's eyes burned brighter than the torches around her. Lord Richard prepared his forces within the great hall, maps soaked by dripping rain from cracked windows. He roared, "The Queen summons rebellion, and we shall crush it before dawn." Lady Margaret, shackled but unbroken, hissed, "She rises stronger than you think." He struck her across the face, snarling, "Your words are poison." The councillors shifted uneasily, their confidence faltering as thunder rolled above. Outside, soldiers sharpened blades, the sound of steel ringing like a grim hymn. The shadow figure stood cloaked in the rafters, unseen, his silence weighing heavier than any oath spoken aloud. The Queen led her soldiers through torchlit corridors, her footsteps echoing like war drums. She whispered, "This night decides whether we stand as rulers or fall as relics." Sir Thomas walked at her side, his voice low, "Then we must strike with the heart of lions." The innocent witness carried a banner, his arms shaking but eyes resolute. Guards tightened their grips on weapons, their breaths ragged in the flicker of flame. The storm outside wailed through broken shutters, as though the heavens themselves mourned what was to come. The march of vengeance had begun, steady and relentless. The clash erupted in the courtyard, steel ringing as soldiers loyal to Richard stormed the gates. Queen Eleanor shouted above the chaos, "Stand fast! Let treachery break on our blades." Sir Thomas cut down a foe, his face streaked with rain and blood. The innocent witness stumbled, nearly trampled, before raising the banner high with trembling arms. Lord Richard bellowed from horseback, "The Queen shall bleed tonight." Lightning tore across the sky, illuminating the carnage. The shadow figure moved among the chaos, striking unseen, his allegiance still cloaked in mystery. The night became a furnace of steel and fire. Bodies lay scattered across the soaked stones as thunder rolled, the battle's echo fading into silence. Queen Eleanor stood atop the bloodied courtyard, her blade dripping, her chest heaving. She whispered, "Let history remember this night as the birth of my vengeance." Sir Thomas dropped to one knee, exhaustion in his eyes but loyalty in his heart. The innocent witness wept, clutching the banner, its fabric torn and stained. Lord Richard retreated into the shadows, his face twisted with fury and fear. High above, the shadow figure lingered, watching as if waiting for the war's final act to unfold. Dawn broke across the blood-soaked courtyard, the storm's fury replaced by an eerie stillness. Queen Eleanor stood among the fallen, her sword heavy in her hand, whispering, "This victory tastes of ash." Sir Thomas approached, his voice weary. "The battle is won, but the kingdom is broken." She turned her gaze to him, eyes hollow yet unyielding. Better a broken kingdom than a queen broken by treachery. The innocent witness clutched the torn banner, its colors muddied with rain and blood, whispering prayers no one heard. Above, the shadow figure watched, as if weighing the cost of survival against the weight of vengeance. The council chamber reeked of smoke as Eleanor entered, dragging her cloak across the charred floor. The surviving councillors bowed reluctantly, their fear thicker than their loyalty. She declared, "You crowned betrayal, and now you kneel in its ashes." Lord Richard, bruised but defiant, spat, "History will call you tyrant." She leaned forward, her voice like steel. "History remembers only victors." Sir Thomas stood by, silent but uneasy, his hand resting on his blade. The innocent witness lingered at the threshold, torn between awe and terror, at the transformation of his queen into something both feared and immortal. Lady Margaret sat shackled in the dungeon, her lips curled in defiance. Eleanor descended the steps, torch in hand, whispering, "Your venom nearly unmade me, yet it sharpened my resolve." Margaret hissed, "Strike me, and you prove me right." Eleanor raised the torch, her face torn between wrath and mercy. Sir Thomas stood at the entrance, whispering, "Mercy is not weakness, my queen." The innocent witness pressed his hands together, praying silently. The silence stretched like a blade between them until Eleanor lowered the torch, whispering, "Your chains will outlast your words." Margaret's laughter echoed like a curse in the dark. From the castle balcony, Eleanor addressed the weary survivors gathered below. Her voice rang across the valley. "This throne is not built on mercy but on fire and steel. Let no man forget who rules." Sir Thomas stood at her side, uneasy, knowing her words would bind her as much as her people. The innocent witness clutched the banner, tears streaming as he raised it high in trembling hands. Lord Richard, chained at the crowd's edge, spat curses unheard in the roar of applause and fear. The shadow figure watched silently from the shadows, his allegiance still unreadable. That night, silence consumed the castle as Eleanor sat alone in her chamber. A blood-stained letter lay upon her desk, her trembling hand tracing its seal. She whispered, "Victory is mine, yet I stand in ruins." Sir Thomas watched from the doorway, sorrow shadowing his face. The innocent witness slept in the corner, clutching the banner like a child's comfort. From the window, the shadow figure departed into the night, unseen by all, leaving only questions. Eleanor stared into the mirror, her reflection fractured, whispering, "Let history call it vengeance, for I can call it nothing else."